From faking a tragic accident to almost causing an actual murder, these are all the times Bart's pranks put everyone else in danger. We're kicking off our list with Radio Bart, featuring one of Bart's most notorious pranks, the faked accident of Timmy O'Toole. So it's Bart's birthday and Homer is clueless about what gift to get him, but then a cheesy TV ad saves the day. The superstar celebrity microphone is some low-quality gadget that lets you broadcast your voice over the radio. So obviously Homer thinks this piece of crap is exactly the kind of thing Bart loves. But when he gets his gift at Wally Weasel's, Bart is completely unimpressed. He's more into the label maker Patty and Selma got him, which he promptly uses to slap property of Bart Simpson labels on everything, from Homer's butt to Santa's little helper. Yeah, that seems more his thing. At first, Bart's skeptical about the microphone, probably because Homer's demo involves screaming into it like a maniac. But once Bart gets his hands on it, he realizes the chaos he can create with it. His first victims, Rod and Todd Flanders, who Bart convinces God is speaking directly to them.
Walk through the wall. I will remove it for you.
Okay, that's actually pretty funny, but that's small fry compared to what's coming. Bart ends up escalating his pranks, lowering the microphone into an abandoned well and pretending to be Timmy O'Toole, a helpless boy trapped at the bottom. Groundskeeper Willie, of all people, buys the act and rallies the whole town to try and help. Before you know it, Springfield is throwing carnivals, recording benefit songs with Sting, and obsessively following Timmy updates on Channel 6 News. This poor boy must be saved, but Bart's prank falls apart when Lisa catches him wrestling the microphone away from Santa's little helper. The whole time, the dog's growls are being broadcasted over the radio. Lisa warns Bart that his prank is spiraling out of control, but Bart doesn't care, until he remembers the label on the microphone that says property of Bart Simpson. Oops. Late at night, Bart sneaks back to retrieve the microphone, but ends up falling into the well. Bart has no choice but to tell the police that he made up the whole prank, but that now it's a very real situation. Suddenly, Springfield's sympathy vanishes.
Ever since I called for the rescue of that Simpson lad, I have taken a lot of heat. So I am flip-flopping. I say, let him stay down there.
Bart's left to shiver in the well, regretting every single decision he made. But eventually Homer comes to the rescue, recruiting the whole town, and Sting, who just wants attention probably, to dig Bart out. Bart is finally freed, and of course Springfield's solution to prevent future incidents is to slap a rickety "Caution, well" sign near the hole. So Bart's criminal spree? Misuse of emergency services. Creating a fake emergency with the Timmy O'Toole prank is basically wasting the rescue service's time. Fraud. Bart gets fundraising efforts and even a benefit song for an incident that doesn't even exist. Vandalism. Placing property of Bart Simpson labels on others' property. Bart is too young for prison, but if he was an adult, he'd be looking at several years in prison for fraud and a fine of $2,000 for the emergency services situation. Look, Bart faking an accident was never a particularly good idea, but it is nothing compared to what he does in Dial N for Nerder. In this one, he comes dangerously close to actual murder. So the episode begins with Marge realizing how dangerously out of shape Homer truly is. Desperate to resolve their intimacy problems, Marge hires a nutritionist, Betsy Bidwell, to help. She introduces Homer to the idea of substituting unhealthy snacks with bell peppers, which he starts eating non-stop, but instead of shedding the pounds, Homer somehow gains 7. Suspicious that he's cheating on his diet, Marge enlists a reality TV show, Sneakers, to spy on Homer and confirm if he's sneaking junk food behind her back. Meanwhile, Bart's pranks take a dark turn during a trip to Springfield Park with Lisa, when they stumble upon Martin digging for arrowheads. Bart sets up a cruel trick using Sideshow Mel's bone. The prank goes horribly wrong, of course. Martin gets hit in the head, tumbles off a cliff, and seemingly falls to his death.
Bart, you can't just run away from this. You're right. I can bike away much faster and ring the bell to drown out bad thoughts.
Chief Wiggum reports on the news that Martin's body has vanished, presumably eaten by a cougar of all things. Bart feels guilty, but Lisa, terrified of going to jail as an accomplice, convinces him to stay quiet. Back at home, the Sneakers crew is tailing Homer. They catch him sneaking into a motel room, not for an affair, but to devour an entire spit of gyro meat in secret. It's uncomfortably sensual and completely humiliating, leaving the Sneakers host begging to turn off the cameras. But back to Bart. Things are escalating at school, where a memorial is being held for Martin Martin. Bart spirals into paranoia and guilt over what they did, and Nelson starts piecing things together, questioning things like why Martin, terrified of heights, would even be near a cliff. Nelson investigates the site and finds the string Bart used in the prank, and he's pretty much on it. Meanwhile, Marge confronts Homer on camera, but she realizes the reality show only cares about drama, not their marriage. With Martin dead, Bart and Lisa sneak into Martin's greenhouse to complete his butterfly project. As they finish, eerie lute music plays on a cassette recorder. Just as Nelson catches Lisa confessing to the murder, Martin appears alive and well. Turns out his underwear saved him with its wedgie-proof waistband. But Lisa and Bart both learn something new about themselves. So what crimes do we have here? Reckless endangerment. I mean, Bart basically almost killed Martin. I don't think anybody needs to be convinced of that one. Obstruction of justice. Bart doesn't actually report Martin's fall and just tries to run and cover it up. Given that he tried to cover up an almost murder, you're looking at an extended period in jail of at least 8 years and a $1,000 fine for trespassing in Martin's greenhouse. Okay, so Bart just about gets off the hook for the whole accidental murder thing, but what happens when he fakes an ID and ventures off on a whole road trip? This is Bart on the road. The episode starts with Skinner scrambling to fix a messed up flight schedule to Hong Kong before spring break begins. His genius plan: declare go to work with your parents day on Friday to free himself up. Of course, chaos follows. Not wanting to spend any time with his parents, Bart ends up at the DMV with Patty and Selma, but it's where he scores a fake driver's license. Bart ropes in Milhouse, Nelson, and eventually Martin for a road trip that they fund with Martin's stock market winnings. A fake ID is just the first step in this series of bad ideas. The plan is as shaky as you'd expect. They claim to be heading to a national grammar rodeo in Canada, Bart's idea of course, but their real goal shifts randomly. Along the way, they make pit stops for ice cream, a hitchhiker, and an Andy Williams concert in Branson, all while running out of money and, well, common sense. But things really go south fast in Knoxville. The Sun Sphere, which is now a wig shop, collapses when Nelson hurts a rock, crushing their car. Broke and stranded, the boys panic. Martin suggests calling their parents, but Bart, fearing Marge and Homer's wrath, convinces them to try other ways to get home. But the failed pawn shop scheme and a botched train hopping attempt leave them even worse off. Whoever could have expected that 4 10-year-olds would be so irresponsible? With no options left, Bart calls Lisa, who's thrilled to finally confirm he's lying. But she softens just a bit and helps him brainstorm a solution to get home. Bart's wild idea: become a courier. Somehow his fake license works and he jets to Hong Kong for his first delivery. Eyeballs, no less. While Skinner spots him at the airport, confused as ever, Lisa eventually spills the beans to Homer, who channels his fury into helping Bart get home. Homer orders a new nuclear console part from Oak Ridge, Tennessee, as a cover to bring the boys back via courier crate. Bart shoves his friends into the box, and they're all reunited in Springfield. At dinner, Bart spins his grammar rodeo tale. But let's just check out the crimes anyway. Using a fake ID is one thing, making one just makes it 10 times worse. Unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, interstate transportation of minors, property damage, 4 years in jail, and $25,000 for basically everything. Just all of it. Well, at least Bart got a whole round-the-world trip out of the whole thing, I guess. But in Postcards from the Wedge, Bart doesn't even have to leave Springfield to commit to the most insane prank yet. So the episode starts with Mrs. Crabapple assigning a report on Hopi Indians. Of course, Bart didn't do it. She sends a letter to his parents about him being way behind on homework, and suddenly Bart's life spirals. Homer, in a rare strict dad moment, decides Bart needs to do all the missed assignments plus extra, while Marge is worried this might crush Bart's love for learning. Naturally, Bart spots their disagreement and uses it to wiggle out of doing anything. Lisa casually drops some wisdom, calling homework their wedge issue, and Bart runs with it. As Marge and Homer argue more about homework and basically everything else, Bart keeps pulling strings to make things even worse and avoid doing his homework. Marge consults Flanders, who gets all emotional about a tiny argument with Maude before her death.
When you're drying your hands with our monogram towels, can you use the NF towel, not the MF?
You know, maybe I should use a towel marked BDD, Big Diddly Deal.
Then she asks Patty and Selma for advice, who tell her to stand firm even if it risks the marriage. Meanwhile, Homer dreams about winning the homework fight, only to accidentally kill Marge in a parade mishap. Anyway, both have a "what are we doing" moment, meet up in traffic, and decide Bart's on his own. Yup, they're officially leaving the boy to ruin his own life, so Bart and Milhouse turn their attention to some new mischief, uncovering Springfield's old subway system. They fire up the trains trains which haven't run in ages, causing a town-wide tremor that shakes everyone up. Homer and Marge stay true to their new hands-off pact and ignore it, but Bart, feeling something's off, confides in Nelson that pranks just don't hit the same unless they provoke outrage. So Bart decides he's gonna do the biggest prank imaginable, an act of terror. He's gonna destroy Springfield Elementary by running the subway train under it. Bart even forges a dramatic note from Lisa to make sure Homer and Marge notice. When they realize what's going on, they scramble to stop Bart. Homer pictures Bart's face on the emergency kill switch lever before pulling it, stopping the train just in time.
The school is saved! Unfurl the flag!
Of course, Bart's grounded for a week, but he's secretly thrilled that he's got his parents' attention again, because that's apparently what all these crimes are really about. Lisa realizes Bart forged the note, misspelling elementary, proving he wanted to get caught. She keeps his secret to protect his bad boy image, because even Lisa knows some things are sacred. It's dumb, but it matters to him. Vandalism and trespassing, attempted destruction of public property, terrorism, 25 to life for Bart's radicalization. Alright, so Bart was dangerously close to becoming an actual terrorist, but our next episode sees Bart putting his dad in the hospital. It's come to this, a Simpsons clip show. So the episode begins on April Fool's Day in Springfield, and Homer is having a blast pranking Bart all day, duct taping his eyes shut before he wakes up and swapping out the milk for sour stuff. But now Bart's done with it, so he plans the ultimate payback. He shakes up a can of beer in a paint shaker. When Homer opens it, Homer ends up seriously injured and rushed to the hospital. But old Dr. Hibbert pulls an especially cruel prank, pretending Homer may never walk again. While Marge processes this whole situation, Barney tries to ease Homer's pain by smothering him with a pillow, but he bolts when he gets caught. Homer, meanwhile, is stuck in bed until he spots a candy machine across the room and is suddenly motivated to move. He manages to wobble over, but in typical Homer fashion,
just breathe. Sweet chocolate falling off air.
And boom, coma. Yeah, between the explosion, the bad pranks, the attempted murder, and this, he's not having a good time. So now Homer's in a vegetative state, and the family gathers at his bedside, reminiscing about their wild past adventures. Meanwhile, Mr. Burns shows up for his own twisted prank, attempting to pull the plug on Homer. Of course, Homer starts showing signs of life just in time to avoid Burns' antics. And then the big moment. Bart confesses that he was behind the beer can explosion. Well, that's all it takes. Homer snaps out of his coma, leaps out of bed, and starts strangling Bart right there in the hospital. Bart casually mentions that Homer's been out cold for weeks, and Marge drops the bombshell that he's lost 5% of his brain. To be fair, Bart almost kills his dad with stress almost every week. But what happens when he almost kills the entire town? This next episode answers that question. It's the secret war of Lisa Simpson. The episode begins with Lisa fed up with school because Skinner keeps showing videos instead of teaching, but when she complains, he basically shrugs it off, saying harder lessons would just bring more complaints, like the one she just brought to him. Meanwhile, Bart is pranking as always. During a field trip to the police station, he pulls this stunt where he chains a bunch of megaphones together and yells, At home, Homer is livid and vows to give Bart the punishment of a lifetime. After some hand-wringing, Homer and Marge decide to take Chief Wiggum's advice and send Bart to military school to discipline him. He's furious, but he knows anger won't help him, so he tries begging and clinging to Homer's leg to get out of it. The family wants rid of him, but Lisa decides she wants to stay too, lured by the promise of actual challenging education without videos. Marge tells Lisa she can quit anytime, but Bart, nope. He's stuck. No matter what, he is staying. Of course, things get rough for both of them. Bart surprisingly adjusts pretty quickly and even earns the respect of his peers. Lisa, not so much. She's the first girl ever at the academy, and the other cadets make sure she knows it. Bart secretly tries to cheer her up, even while pretending not to care. The big test at the end of the term is this wild physical challenge called the Eliminator, which is basically a death-defying rope climb over thorn bushes. Lisa's struggling, but Bart steps in, cheering her on fun despite the hazing he gets for it. She powers through, and they both pass, with Lisa earning her medal and proving she belongs here. When Homer and Marge come to pick them up, they're impressed with their kids. With the kids having actually achieved something for once, they promise a trip to Disneyland for real this time. But nope, it's a trip to the dentist instead. Bart and Lisa are furious, while Homer and Marge just laugh. Let's just throw this little brat into prison for a few decades. It's too risky. Look, Bart almost deafened the entire town, but he did something good, right? You can't say the same for our next episode, Pranksta Rap. Here, Bart basically tries to escape his problems by faking his own kidnapping. The episode kicks off with Bart catching a commercial for this rap concert, Murder for Life, and he's instantly hooked. Lisa rolls her eyes, calling him another lame suburban kid who loves rap. So of course, he buys a ticket. At the concert, Bart somehow ends up on stage with the rapper Alcatraz after catching his mic. And instead of backing down, Bart drops a rap dissing Homer. The crowd, of course, eats it up. Alcatraz is so impressed that he gives Bart a ride in his Hummer limo and even a free jersey. But when Bart gets home, he overhears Marge and Homer planning to punish him, and he sees only two options. So what does Bart do? He fakes his own kidnapping.
A flying rock! Call a geologist!
Everyone in Springfield freaks out. Wiggum promises to solve the case, but unsurprisingly, no one believes him. Meanwhile, Bart hides out at Milhouse's dad's sketchy apartment, calling home in a disguised voice to demand ransom money. Wiggum, sharp for once, identifies the sound of cheap popcorn in the background and tracks it to Kirk's place. Cops raid the apartment, find Bart, and arrest Kirk for kidnapping. Bart's home, Wiggum's a hero, and Kirk, well, at least he gets free meals in jail. Milhouse rats Bart out, and Bart, feeling guilty, confesses to Wiggum. But Wiggum's like, let's just keep the lie going, it's working for everyone. Lisa, ever the moral compass, finds Bart's jersey and starts digging. She teams up with Skinner and tracks down Alcatraz, who has proof that Bart was at the concert during the supposed kidnapping. Wiggum tries to cover it up, but Lisa won't back down. Eventually, Wiggum and the crew storm Alcatraz's mansion to seize the security tape, only to be outgunned by the rapper's entourage. Just as tensions peak, Alcatraz proposes the ultimate solution, a house party. Everyone, including Lisa, gives in to the chaos. Bart and Wiggum bask in the spotlight while Lisa questions her morals, and Homer caps it all off by cannonballing into the pool. Right into a list of crimes, faking his own kidnapping, fraud, conspiracy, 3 years behind bars, and a bribe for Wiggum, if only to get away from the kind of chaotic pranks that lead to disasters like Bart vs. Australia, in which, well, you can tell. So this episode kicks off with Bart and Lisa bickering over the Coriolis effect at the bathroom sink. Lisa claims it makes water swirl differently in the southern hemisphere, but Bart's not buying it. Naturally, Bart decides to prove her wrong by making a series of ridiculously expensive international calls. He even ropes in an Australian kid named Tobias, pretending to be some official Dr. Bart Simpson. Tobias confirms the water drains clockwise in Australia, which annoys Bart, but he's too stubborn to admit defeat. No, he just has to force success. But Bart leaves Tobias on the hook for hours, racking up a massive phone bill for the poor kid's dad, like $900. When Tobias' dad finds out Bart was just messing around, he's furious. But of course, Bart mocks him instead of apologizing. Well, it turns out Bart did pick the wrong guy to tangle with. Turns out the dad's neighbor is a member of parliament, so this prank gets escalated big time. The Aussie government charges Bart with fraud and threatens serious consequences for his crimes. The State Department eventually gets involved, and to avoid making things worse between the US and Australia, they convince the Simpsons to fly down under so Bart can apologize in person. Obviously, he smuggles a pet bullfrog into the country, which immediately escapes and starts wreaking havoc. When he does come to make his apology, it's just not enough. The Australians demand an extra punishment. Bart has to get booted. Bart panics and Homer flips out, but the locals aren't budging. They barely escape in a helicopter while the Aussies hurl cans of Fosters at them. Meanwhile, Bart's bullfrog, it's already devastated Australia's ecosystem, breeding out of control and becoming a full-blown environmental disaster. The episode ends with the Simpsons flying home, joking about the dangers of invasive species, until the camera pans out to reveal a koala clinging to their helicopter, ready to bring its own trouble to America. They have a long list of crimes as it is: telecommunications fraud, smuggling, public indecency. Obviously, Australia will never forgive Bart, and our next episode gives Bart another enemy, in the form of Edna, who becomes his latest target of a particularly mean prank. It's Bart the Lover. This episode starts with Bart's class watching some boring film about zinc, while Miss Crabapple is pretty much done with her life. She's lonely, so she puts a personal ad in a magazine, desperate to find her true love. Meanwhile, the school gets swept up in a yo-yo craze after this performance at an assembly. Everyone's obsessed except Crabapple, who's fed up with yo-yos taking over her classroom. All she wants is one normal kid, but instead she gets this.
Hey, Bart, got any new tricks for us today? Just one. A little something I call plucking the pickle. I didn't do it.
Naturally, Crabapple gives him a month of detention and confiscates his yo-yo. Not something Bart reacts happily to. While serving detention, Bart stumbles across Crabapple's personal ad and sees the "save me" plea at the end. Naturally, he decides to mess with her and creates a fake persona, Woodrow. Based purely on the President Woodrow Wilson, he starts writing romantic letters to Crabapple, borrowing lines from Homer's old love letters and cheesy movies he sees on TV. Crabapple totally falls for it, even sending Bart a sexy photo. I don't know how to feel about that, but in return, Bart sends back a picture of hockey legend Gordie Howe, claiming it's Woodrow. Crabapple is finally ready to meet Woodrow in person, so Bart sets up a fake date at the Gilded Truffle and then just ghosts her, opting to see an Ernest movie instead. When he leaves the theater, laughing about Ernest's kidney drama, he sees Crabapple crying alone at the restaurant and feels weird. The next day, Crabapple confides in Bart, saying he's the closest thing she has to a man in her life, which just makes him feel worse. Bart comes clean to his family about what he's done, and they brainstorm a way to let Crabapple down gently. They craft a letter from Woodrow saying he has to leave but will always cherish her. Crabapple reads it, finds closure, and decides to end Bart's detention on a high note by spending it outside. But we're gonna end this episode with a list of crimes: fraud and impersonation, harassment. Sure, it wasn't a dangerous prank, but it was emotionally cruel. But our final episode, Bart Gets Famous, shows the real consequences when Bart decides to do whatever he wants. Alright, so Bart's class is supposed to go on a fun field trip, but Mrs. Crabapple immediately kills the vibe by guessing they're headed to the Springfield box factory again. And yup, she's right. As they pass other schools heading to awesome places like Toy Town or a fireworks testing range, Bart and his classmates are glued to the windows, jealous and miserable. They end up at the boring box factory and the tour is so dull it feels like a punishment. But Bart has had enough. He can't take it anymore. He has to sneak out. So while the class is stuck at the factory, Bart wanders over to the Channel 6 TV studio. He bumps into Bumblebee Man and ends up stealing a Danish for Krusty after eating the one meant for him. Krusty predictably doesn't remember all the times Bart has already saved his bacon, but he knows that he wants Bart as his assistant. It's a dream job for Bart. Meanwhile, back at the factory, Skinner realizes Bart's gone, panics, and calls Homer. Homer freaks out, thinking Bart's been crushed by a box machine. Bart eventually heads home like nothing happened, and Homer is just relieved that he doesn't have to explain this whole box accident to Marge. Bart even uses his hat to sell the lie that he stayed with the group. Anyway, Bart's new gig with Krusty starts out promising, but quickly turns into a grind. He's overworked, taken for granted, and stuck doing grunt work. His only credit is a blink and you'll miss it name drop. Just as he's ready to quit, Krusty throws him a bone, a single line in a sketch, but Bart flubs it, destroys the props, and panics, blurting out,
I didn't do it.
Well, the audience loves it, turning Bart's screw-up into comedy gold. Suddenly, I Didn't Do It is a massive hit, and Bart becomes an overnight star. The fame is fun at first, merch, interviews, even a Conan experience, but Bart quickly feels trapped. His nightmare of becoming a washed-up fad doesn't help. Sure enough, the catchphrase fizzles, and Krusty drops him like yesterday's news. Fame fades, but Marge saves the day with a box of keepsakes. Time for crime, petty theft, trespassing. Let him pay for the Danish and leave the kid alone.